almost ready, folks. For those of you who don't know, that image of The Rock playing on your screen right now, that's AI. That's AI regenerating The Rock over and over and over based on previous images. It's just constantly reiterating over the same image. Okay, almost ready, almost ready. Gotta get all my articles lined up. Now I would be more prepared if you guys paid me more money. Jeez. This is what you get when you expect things for free. All right, there we go. Sup, everyone? How's everyone doing? D on X, how you doing? Laughily on Twitch, how are you? One more time into the breach. It's a sad state of affairs, the way the tech industry is, but we're going to cover it anyways. I think I'm ready. I think I've got all my articles. So wherever you are, whatever time of day it is, I hope you're having a good day. I'm starting a bit earlier today. I've got stuff going on later, so I had to start earlier. I have my, let me just turn that off. I have my coffee ready, and I'm ready to get into the news. Let's see what depressing stuff is out there today, shall we? Let's start with this. The FBI, U.S. officials targeted in voice deepfake attacks since April. Fan-frickin-tastic. Let's see if I can zoom in proper here. I think that's better. The FBI warned that cyber criminals using AI-generated audio deepfakes to target U.S. officials in voice phishing attacks that started in April. This warning is part of a public service announcement issued on Thursday that also provides mitigation measures to help the public spot and block attacks using audio deepfakes, also known as voice deepfakes. Since April 2025, malicious actors have impersonated senior U.S. officials to target individuals, many of whom are current or former senior U.S., federal, or state government officials and their contacts. If you receive a message claiming to be from a senior U.S. official, do not assume it is authentic. The malicious actors have sent text messages and AI-generated voice messages, techniques known as smishing and vishing, respectively. Can't make this stuff up. That claim to come from a senior U.S. official in an effort to establish rapport before gaining access to personal accounts. The attackers gain access by sending malicious links, and then it takes you to a different platform, or they socially engineer so that you give up their password or pertinent information, etc., etc. Now, one more time. To all of you AI hypists and AI cultists who want to promote AI as some kind of magical panacea to so many problems, that it will be mostly net positive, you have no moral claim to say that this is wrong. This is exactly what you wanted. You wanted people to use AI. You wanted them to use AI everywhere so that you could live comfortably in some weird utopia that you have in your head that AI would bring about. You can't say that the use of AI to create vishing voice deepfake techniques targeting officials with security clearances, you can't say that that is morally wrong because you said that we should all be doing it. You didn't have the brain capacity to think beyond just your use cases of AI because most people honestly do not have the brain capacity to think beyond first order effects. Okay, maybe not most people. Maybe not most, all right? That was a bit maybe that was a bit over exaggerated there. But many people don't know how to think beyond first order effects. So there's a second order effect for you right here. This will only get worse. And you all ask for it. What's up, Adaraz? Good to see you, man. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're still trolling out there. You know, just brief pause on the stream for a minute. I know Adaraz is on Twitch. If you're not on Twitch, you're not seeing it. But I know Adaraz a little bit. And I just picture Adaraz out there just like targeting people to troll them in the most like non-aggressive way ever. And he just like it's master level trolling. It's incredible. So I just picture Adaraz like just scouring the earth for people to troll. So I hope you're still on that. All right, next article. I'm going to pull this one up here. Now, you ready for this? So, I have often, as a matter of fact, here, conspiracy time. All right. I wear this Goomba hat when I'm about to go on a conspiracy rant that I can't prove. So mini rant, just a summary of many other conspiracy rants that I've made. If you're a consumer or you're a programmer or you work in the tech industry or if you use tech in any fashion, I think will generally agree that, well, if you're watching here, let's put it that way, if you're watching my streams, then you probably agree that tech generally sucks. It's gotten worse. At the very least, it hasn't gotten better. Just as a general statement, some things have their exceptions to the rule. And part of the reason why things have gotten worse is because, as I demonstrated on X by having a debate with somebody who wanted to defend their use of a particular paradigm in the programming world, they defended their use of it with zero logical facts. They actually even admitted to it, essentially. They basically conceded the entire debate and at the end just summarized their viewpoint as, it feels good for me, dough, it worked for me, dough, therefore it good, dough. That's really what it boiled down to. That's the vast majority of the tech industry. And I have long had a conspiracy theory that nation-state actors or groups of people who do not like the way we live over here in the West want us to continue to think this way. They want us to continue to generate bad websites, bad video games, bad software, bad hardware, all of it. And they want us not to only generate these things as like outputs, but they want it built into the code base itself. They want it built into the hardware itself. Why? Because it leaves doors open, which I cover at 53 episodes of the Daily Tech News Stream. So many doors are open for them to gain access to all kinds of stuff that they would otherwise have really difficult access to. And it's working. And so they support us and they continue to back the things, the stupid decisions that we make, funding us, throwing nice tech conference parties. And if you look at some of the contributors of them, they come from, let's just say, other countries. Okay, let's just put it that way. There's there is a huge propaganda campaign, but it's actually reverse propaganda. We ourselves in the tech industry have generated the exact propaganda that is needed by other nation state actors to sit back and chill and bide their time and just let us continue pushing slop, and they want to support it. That's my conspiracy theory. I am working on proving it. I do have some proof, but it's locked away, and there's only one person in the entire world, well, maybe two people in the entire world who know the proof that I have. All right. Now, I'm going to take this off because I have no proof. It's just a conspiracy theory, so whatever. All right? Take this off. Let's get to the article. Huh. What's that meme? The guy with the butterfly? Is this conspiracy turned truth? I'm just joking. Rogue communication devices found in Chinese solar power inverters. Shall we read? Let's read. London. Laughably, here's looking at you, bud. U.S. energy officials are reassessing the risk posed by Chinese-made devices that play a critical role in renewable energy infrastructure, after unexplained communication equipment was found inside some of them, two people familiar with the matter said. Now, the sources of the people who said this, they never came out and, said it's okay for you to tell everybody who I am by name. But honestly, is this shocking? Would this surprise you if it were true? Power inverters, which are predominantly produced in China, are used throughout the world to connect solar panels and wind turbines to electricity grids. They are also found in batteries, heat pumps, and electric vehicle chargers. While inverters are built to allow remote access for updates and maintenance, the utility companies that use them typically install firewalls to prevent direct communication back to China. So I just want to really be really clear about this. Right out the gate, straight from the word go, utility companies know that these things talk back to China, and they know it so well. They know it is a de facto standard of how these things operate, that they know that they got to put up firewalls to prevent the communication going back to China, but they still buy them anyways. I can't even... However, rogue communication devices not listed in product documents have been found in some Chinese solar power inverters by U.S. experts who stripped down equipment hooked up to grids to check for security issues, the two people said. Over the past 9 months, undocumented communication devices, including cellular radios, have also been found in some batteries from multiple Chinese suppliers, one of them said. Reuters was unable to determine how many solar power inverters and batteries they have looked at. The rogue components provide additional undocumented communication channels that could allow firewalls to be circumvented remotely with potentially catastrophic consequences. Gee, I think. Both declined to be named because they did not have permission to speak to the media. We know that China believes there is value in placing at least some elements of our core infrastructure at risk of destruction or disruption, Mike Rogers, former director of U.S. National Security Agency. I think that the Chinese are in part hoping that the widespread use of inverters limits the options that the West has to deal with the security issue. I don't actually think this is even the single attack vector. China has many attack vectors. It's really not that hard. They just have to watch 53 episodes of my daily tech news stream and give me that sweet, sweet viewership count, and they can see all the ways that we're susceptible to all kinds of attacks. A spokesperson for the Chinese embassy in Washington said, "We oppose the generalization of the concept of national security, distorting and smearing China's infrastructure achievements." So you can see kind of where this leads to, right? And typically what happens is that these utility companies, especially power and energy, they are more closely watched by governmental agencies because they are one of the primary ways to infiltrate an opposing nation, let's say. What happens in these kinds of instances, including the military, they have a software bill of materials. This also happens in the corporate world in software. There's a software bill of materials, so you'll literally have like a spreadsheet of stuff you're using, where it came from, who produced it, licensing agreements, yada yada yada. And the key point here is that these utility companies, at least the two that are being talked about, use stuff that's not in the software bill of materials. And just as a related tangential point, the US has, just generally speaking, said that you should not be using Huawei chips from China. So there's a game afoot. There's a game afoot. All right. And it's playing out right before our eyes. This is one of the vectors, but this isn't the only vector. I cover also the coding aspect of things, right? Dimitri, nice Dimitri. Tikoratsa. I'm assuming that sounds kind of Greek. Elinika, how are you doing? Hey, Sparrow, what do you think about C language code being 404'd artificially by intelligence agencies claiming it's unsafe? The argument in and of itself, can C be unsafe? Yes, it can. I think the reason why it is, and I'm going to have someone on who is going to talk about this with me. The reason why the C is being attacked is because there's a woke kind of mind virus approach to it from the Rust community. I've touched on this, and within code, that doesn't have a place in it, right? Like C doesn't care if it doesn't care about your political leanings or anything like that, your feelings. But some things tend to go too much in one direction. It can also go too much in the opposite direction too, honestly. So that's why I bring it up, because it either way, it doesn't belong in code. So I think there's absolutely a movement happening to displace C because people want to use like an ideology behind a language. And I think that's what's really going on. And I'm going to talk about that on Friday, about 3 or 4 hours earlier than whatever time it is for anybody out there today. I'm going to be talking to someone who is very close to the Rust community and has a lot to say about it. So we'll get into it. I'm going to push back on them a bit, even though they generally actually kind of agree with me. And we'll kind of hash that out, because I think Rust is the one that's kind of going after C, although I would say it's also going after C++. Do you think it will survive the onslaught? I'm not sure. That the only way that it can actually survive the onslaught is if people stand up to it. That's really the only way. And that's why I do what I do. Because I want people, specifically programmers, to be armed with the right arguments to make a case against it. That's really the only way it can survive. Otherwise, it's just going to get steamrolled. And in part, it already has. So, and I've already tackled the arguments of like, why is C unsafe? Does it have to be unsafe? We need programmers who know how to program better. We've neutered the skill abilities in the entire industry, which means that like the argument kind of does have a little bit of ground, because programmers don't know how to, generally speaking, they don't know how to program very well anymore. It's not because they're dumb or anything. It's just because we don't put emphasis on that anymore. So people don't even know how. We just abstract it all away. So we'll see. We'll see what happens Friday. What's up, Frozen on Twitch? Good to see you. Adaraz thinks people will stand up to it. There's just too much stuff written in C. I hope so. But ideology, see, this is the problem matter as. Ideology is far more powerful than logic. When it comes to persuading people, it's far more powerful. You would think that logic would be more powerful, but it's not. Just look at history. Cults are everywhere. They're often very successful, sometimes to the tune of decades, if not hundreds of years. Ideologies withstand the test of time. When an ideology can make you feel something, it can override your logic, and it works so much. Everyone does it, and to some degree, I kind of play into that rhetoric because I want to persuade you that we do need more logic. This is why I kind of stick to the programming space, because again, ideology has no place here. When you code or you execute your hardware, it should be purely on logical paradigms, not on your feelings, not on your vibes, not on some ideology or some thinking that is not based on logic at all. So I want to believe X-Files, that C will stand. But I also know firsthand that ideologies are far more powerful. So I just don't know. What's up, Sergeant on Twitch? What's up, Ross on Twitch? Good to see you. Okay, let's get on to the next article. And feel free to ask more questions. I'm just going to go between articles and questions. You guys are more than welcome to fire off, questions and stuff. Okay. Unholy Diver on Twitch. Good to see you. I've got people on Kick watching, wherever you're watching. X, I know there's people watching on X. I appreciate it. I can, D, for example. I can see all the messages and stuff, so feel free to engage. Dimitri on YouTube asks, why is cybersecurity become so problematic? I noticed that almost nothing is properly protected and people themselves don't care much about it. Could it be propaganda? No, I don't think it is. I don't think it's propaganda at all. No, I think it's exactly what I've been talking about for the past year and some months on my live streams here. You can go back and go on my YouTube channel and look at the live tab, look at the Enlightened Programming streams, look at all the Daily Tech News streams, look at the video game that I'm building whenever I get time to. All of these things all lead to a necessary neutering of skills. And part of those skills is the inability for people to even be able to understand what they're working with, let alone not just what it is, but how to work with it. Right. So I think that it's not propaganda. It's just the way that it's a necessary entailment of the way that tech has been treated. Sergeant Pepper says C will be around forever like COBOL, just due to the amount of software existing, but I think it's going to eventually take a backseat to languages like Zig and Rust, unless something changes really drastically in any of the three communities for those languages. No, I disagree, Sergeant, because if that was true, it would have happened already. No, I completely disagree. C has been around for 40 some odd years, and many things have popped up and said this is going to end C. Never happens. I don't think it's going to take a backseat. Now, that's a future outlook, so I could be wrong. Okay, that's future. I could be wrong. You mean make it esoteric so that only the chosen ones can do the wizardry? Yes, Dimitri. Yeah, it's cult-like mentality. That's what happens. Is big tech influencers, big tech itself, companies, stuff like that. They want you to think that you can't operate without abstractions and frameworks and paradigms and obfuscation mechanisms and all that kind of stuff. And so essentially what they're saying without saying it is you're too stupid to work without this thing. Don't worry about it. Smarter people than you have come up with this abstraction. Use the abstraction. Check all the check boxes in the list, and you're going to be fine. It's the same kind of cult-like mentality. As long as you do this thing and that thing, then you will be approved by God, essentially. I feel like C is too limited compared to what we have now. Yeah, I disagree with everything you just said there on Holy Diver. I'm not even going to get into that. Zig has bigger potential to do that than Rust. I think potential's there. Oh yeah, Sergeant, if you're talking about potential, oh yeah, the potential's there. Yes, I can agree with that. The potential for Zig and Rust to put C on the backseat is there, but I have a historical argument, which is historically many things claim that they will do that, none have. Right, so I can just kind of project that out, but the potential is absolutely there. Yeah. All right, I'm going to ignore chat for a minute. Let's keep going through the news. All right, but keep chatting, keep throwing stuff at me. I'll check it out after a few articles here. All right, so we have this one. Why untested AI-generated code is a crisis waiting to happen. This is in line with kind of like the cybersecurity theme that I'm talking about right now. AI coding assistants have turbocharged coding, shrinking release cycles to days and becoming the norm within companies. But that speed boost comes with fresh trade-offs. Now, there are some statistics in this article, which is kind of the primary reason that I'm bringing this up. For regular viewers of my stream, you kind of know all this already. We've gone over the academic material as to why AI produces insecure, unstable, bad code way more often than not. But some of the statistics in this article provide some nice context and additional information. A new survey of more than 2,000... Hang on, let me just zoom in here. Let me just check my screen, zoom in so that in case you're reading, you can... There we go. A new survey of more than 2,700 DevOps and quality assurance leaders published today by Tricentis, this was from a few days ago, suggests nearly 2/3 of teams push code without fully testing it to hit deadlines. At the same time, more than 4 in 5 IT leaders think AI will deliver both speed and quality, and nearly 90% claim they already see a return on generative AI investments. We're seeing speed and innovation soar, David Caldwell, Tricentis' vice president of AI and machine learning, says, but without robust testing, we risk building on shaky foundations. According to Tricentis' survey, 9 in 10 tech leaders now trust AI to greenlight releases. But 66 of organizations still expect a major outage in the next 12 months. While that level is fairly static, it highlights that AI isn't improving things. So, I just want to make sure I understand this correctly. 9 in 10 tech leaders say AI can absolutely greenlight code to production. However, we expect a major outage in the next 12 months. And then in the meantime, you have this thing up here. 90% claim they already see a return on generative AI investments. I wonder how many of them have done the math on what it's going to cost when they have a major outage and whether that return is going to be washed away or sunk by the outage. Yeah. Now, hang on, let me zoom out. So the fear here is I'm sorry, I have to zoom out to get all the text on screen, so it might be harder to read, I apologize, but you can just hear me read it out. The fear is a slow burn crisis where you ship out code, whatever, and it generates code, and then the code ultimately fails, right? And we are seeing that happen right now. Just watch the previous Daily Tech News streams. I covered tons of it. So when people use these LLMs to generate code, they don't actually test them. And what's the cost of these things? The bill for defective code is already sizable. 40% of firms say malfunctioning or miscoded software costs them at least $1 million a year through staff churn, increased technical debt, and escalating maintenance costs, with losses above $5 million in almost half of large US firms. And Dimitri on YouTube, yes, the promotion of AI will replace programmers is a scaremonger tactic. Absolutely. That is propaganda. And I do think it's meant to scare programmers away from learning fundamentals. Yeah. And it's mostly by the people who run the AI companies. They want your money. Follow the money. That's usually what it is. Friction within organizations compound the risks. A third of respondents say that they have weak feedback loops between developers and testers, with 29% saying leadership has never spelled out clear quality metrics, meaning they can't even pinpoint where things are going wrong. Unresolved technical debt, which is named the top obstacle by 34% of respondents to the survey, also add up to the risk of vulnerability slip through. Now, I recently, on one of the Enlightened programming streams, I think it was the Stack Overflow 2024 survey. Those Enlightened programming streams are more academic. We actually read the boring, academic statistical material, scientific papers. We literally just read through them. It's more boring than this stuff. But in that one, in the Stack Overflow 2024 survey, the top 3 things that developers said they were most frustrated with, I think number 1 was also technical debt. And then number 2 and 3 were complexities around the tools that they have, because the tools have become so complex. Now, apparently, excitement about agentic AI remains high within the industry. 82% of teams want autonomous agents to take over repetitive chores. And virtually all believe AI-driven testing will raise both speed and quality. Now, we've gone over again how AI can't do that. I have actually proven twice how AI cannot code. I've proven it twice live on stream with 2 different programming paradigms, one of which is real. It's based on JavaScript, and one which I completely made up. And I asked the AI to generate a functional program or to parse out the program that I put into it using these paradigms. Both times it confidently gave me answers that were so wildly untrue. These things cannot code. They can't. Hey, Laughing Panda, good to see you, man. Yeah, live and on stream. Yes. On the Daily Tech News stream. I'll do it again if I have to, but I've proven it already. So not only can these things not code, but we went over a study, I believe it was yesterday or the day before, where human-based cybersecurity checkers are up to 5 or 6 times better and faster, generally speaking, than any AI cybersecurity automated check system. So no, AI is not going to do this, at least not right now. So this is a lot of cope, and it's kind of wild to me that these tech leaders understand that there is an issue. They're expecting an outage, but they think that the return on investment is worth it. It's crazy, absolutely crazy. Dimitri on YouTube, I'm pushing my programming studies even harder, and I want to not just create websites with React and Node, but also add cybersecurity measures to it. Yeah, I would absolutely do that. Do something that interests you. Stick to the basics, the fundamentals, and you'll learn a lot more than anything AI can teach you. You want a pork theme language? You got it, Laugh. I'll design a pork theme language. Yeah. What's up, AH? Good to see you, man. Even if they don't know how to code, they're still very useful at code, right? Helped me a lot to come up with ideas on how to solve a coding issue, but never proper code. So, I'm going to reserve judgment on whether they are good for rubber ducking. I have an article on this stream. We're going to get into it in a few articles from now. And then I will give you the answer to whether I think that they are helpful with coming up with ideas or not. All right. So first, let's cover the article, and then we'll get into it. Taz, what's up, Taz? Good to see you. Of course, they can't code. They're token prediction tensors. They can't think, so they're just super fancy autocomplete. That's right. Vibe coding is terrible, says Unholy Diver. I do think it's a good tool for project management brainstorming. It can be. Yeah, it can be. However, again, I'm going to reserve judgment on that. I want to go over an article that I brought up. This is so, it's almost like I plan these things. It's almost like I plan to bait chat into saying certain things that I then have an article for in the very same stream. It's almost like I've done this so many times that I have a plan and I know how to manipulate you all because I run a cult over here. All right, next article. Let's get through. There's 2 or 3 more cybersecurity ones, and we're going to jump into some AI stuff, and then we're going to end it on a good one. Sam Altman wants to know your location. Yeah. Let me bring this one up. All right, here we go. New HTTP botnet launches 200 plus precision DDoS attacks on gaming and tech sectors. So this is a botnet malware called HTTP bot. And it actually even targets companies and educational institutions in China. So this is one of the cases where you have a group of people who created something and they don't have an affiliation to any nation. They're not a nation state actor. They're just in it for themselves. That's all. So what happens is there is a piece of malware that you install, and let me just go down to, I have to go down and then I have to work up. This article kind of did it backwards. Where did it go? Where did it go? Okay, here we go. So what happens is you download this thing, right? You install it and you run it, and then it conceals its graphical user interface, the GUI, so that it sidesteps monitoring, including even security tools. It also resorts to unauthorized Windows registry manipulation to ensure that it's run automatically on system startup. And so this one in particular targets Windows machines. It operates on Windows machines. Then it establishes contact with a command and control server to await further instructions to execute HTTP flood attacks against specific targets by sending a high volume of HTTP requests, DDoS. Most of us know that. It does it through browser attack, HTTP auto attack. So there's like browser-based, what do you call it? Browser-based access that it does it through. It does it through HTTP2 protocols, WebSocket, post-attack, cookie attack, etc. And the reason why this one stands out a little bit is because they call it scalpel-like precision. Normally with these bots, they just do a flood of, just send it out like everywhere or send it to a group of things, at the same time. They're almost indiscriminate. However, this one is very discriminate. It has particular targets, and that actually makes it harder to detect, because when you focus in on specific targets, it's difficult to come up with a pattern when you only have so many instances to generate a pattern from. The other thing is this was written in Golang. So don't code in Golang. Golang bad, all right? Ransomware attackers. Let me switch over here. I didn't switch. Ransomware attackers steal comms firms' customer details. Attackers breached Duo Broadband, a Kentucky-based communications company. So if you're in Kentucky, watch out. Stealing personal details of tens of thousands of customers. So there was an unauthorized access to its networks on Valentine's Day. That's pretty sad. Okay. And the attempt was to deploy ransomware based on what they could tell, but they acted fast and then they notified law enforcement. The information that was exposed, because even though they attempted to stop it, the hackers got access to data, include first and last names, addresses, dates of birth, and social security numbers. So, of course, we all know how this stuff works. Then they use it to target specific individuals, and so on and so forth. They just expand on their hacking abilities by harvesting all of this data. So, just so you know that that's out there, if you're in Kentucky, maybe you need to be aware. If you're using Duo Broadband, beware. Right, so this is like an internet service provider. Okay, now, the stuff that you all like to hear. How many times, hey D Dever on Twitch, good to see you. How many times have we gone over? How many episodes have we had? Out of 53 episodes, including today, how many episodes have we had that where we've covered a security breach due to non-secure cloud buckets like S3? How many times? How many episodes out of 53? It's at least 40, right? It's at least 40 out of 53. Well, let's reset the counter, because I think it's been 2 or 3 days since we saw the last one. But we reset the counter today, boys. 0 days since the last non-secure S3 bucket. Shall I do this? You want me to do this? Who wants me to do this? Who wants me to get into this? I'm using the questions as an excuse to take a sip here. Anyone? No? No one wants to see it? No? 0 people who want to see more non-secure S3 buckets? No? Give up? Pack it up? Go home? Ross on Twitch thinks I should give up. That is exactly the pep talk that I needed to hear to bring this one up. Thank you, Ross. I salute you. Thank you for that pep talk. Massive data leak. 200 billion files exposed in cloud buckets. This is it's almost becoming unbelievable. Dimitra on YouTube, this is exactly what I mean. We have neutered programmers' abilities to understand basic things like how to secure a cloud bucket full of data. That this kind of news happens. I'm not kidding. Just ask anyone in chat. It happens almost every stream. I have one article every stream that goes into it. And Google. That's why I say cloud buckets, because it's not always Amazon S3. Sometimes it's Google, and very rarely it's Azure, which is Microsoft. Those are kind of the 3 big players. So let's go. It's almost fake. I wonder how much of this is AI generated, because I just can't believe it's real. Cybele. By the way, hey Little Sparrow on Twitch, good to see you. Welcome in. Cybele, a cybersecurity company specializing in dark web monitoring and threat intelligence, said its vulnerability search tool has detected more than 660,000 exposed buckets and 200 billion leaking files across 7 major cloud providers. So, I purposefully named 3 because so far, most articles have only been 3. Amazon leading the way, Google Cloud second, Azure third. However, there are now 7. Filtering the data for just 3 sensitive data types, credentials, source code, and confidential files, yielded millions of compromised files. Filtering for source code and the Go language, for example, yielded 5.6 million results. Filtering for ENV credentials returned 110,000. And a search for confidential files returned more than 1.6 million results. Now, it doesn't stop there, gentlemen. It doesn't stop there, gentlemen. No, we're going further in, Ross. We're going all the way in. The number of exposed cloud storage buckets is more than 30% higher compared to August last year. Bros, we haven't even had a year pass and there's a 30% increase in this crap. It's like, okay, when Cyble's analysis returned more than 500,000 exposed buckets. So it's very common. Data's leaked because of misconfigurations. Managing access can be challenging even for big organizations. Misconfigured cloud buckets are all too common. It gets complicated when you start sharing objects and resources, and there you go. There you go. There you go. That's it. This should be some of the simplest stuff we can do. Securing your cloud files, your cloud storage should be kind of, what would you say? It's like, what's the term that people say? Like it should be the starting point, like the first thing you do when you exit the gates, kind of thing. I can't think of the exact term. I'm sure someone in chat will correct me, but you know what I mean. You should be able to start at the point of your cloud buckets are secure. Foundation, it would be a word, but there's a colloquial or like a term, blinker fluid fundamental. No, it's a saying. It's a saying. Elementary. It's like no, it's not. It's not a single word. It's a saying. Like right out the gate, out of the box. That's close. Blinker fluid, sure. Elementary, yeah. But it should be the thing you start with. Yes, fundamental, foundational, elementary. This is secure your buckets, right? Apparently, they can't get it right. This is absolutely crazy. Paul Sweat. I just want to leave this up just for a second while I take another sip here because my throat's. Walk before you run. 200 billion files. And just to add one more, okay, I just want to add one more thing here. Filtering the data, okay? Filtering the data for just 3 sensitive data types. They only picked credential, source code, and confidential files. So the implication here is that what they found is only based on these 3 data types. How many other data types contain sensitive information? What kind are they? And how many files did they find in those data types? Yeah. 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 All right. Shall we jump into some AI stuff? Let's jump into some AI stuff. Now, a lot of people like to many people tell me, okay, I've been told by many people have told me I'm too negative. I can't do the Trump thing, right? I can't do the Trump thing. I'm too negative about AI. AI has lots of good use cases. I want to be really clear that I have constantly covered news articles and situations. I can recall them off the top of my head where there are positive use cases of AI. And I'm perfectly happy to back those positive use cases of AI. And the same goes for any argument I make about any abstraction, paradigm, framework, language, library, third party, etc. Absolutely good reasons and good use cases. However, they are few and far between in comparison to the negative use cases. With that in mind, I am too cynical. Well, shut up, Ross. You're too cynical. Google DeepMind's AI agent dreams up algorithms beyond human expertise. Now, I really wanted this article to be a positive use case article because I thought to myself, when I first started digging into this, I had to spend approximately 3 days, several hours, across 3 days. And I had to really look at this. So the first thing that I thought was, oh, this is great. Like, finally, like a positive thing I can kind of point to. If this is true, maybe this is a positive thing. We can kind of, I want to point to this, right? Taz on Twitch says, I had a discussion recently with a React dev who didn't even understand HTTP. I know that there are some React devs who don't even understand HTML. Yeah, we're screwed if we don't fix this. That's why I'm here, Taz. That's why I do what I do. Because these things are touted as these abstractions and paradigms that make it so that you don't understand what you're doing. You only live in paradigm land. They are necessarily making it so that people don't look under the hood. And that's why I'm here, because I want people to understand that we have a massive shortage of skills, and we've done it to ourselves. And it's completely fixable. Like I've said it before, in 6 months' time, if at least over 50% of the tech industry changed its ways, which is not hard, we would all have more work than we could handle, and we'd be making more money than we know what to do with. Nate on X says positive use cases are becoming fewer and fewer as hallucinations are increasing. Yes, and I've gone over how AI generates data like scientific articles, which are not based on any good scientific principles. They get put out there, and then AI just ingests it again. So just like, it's like the Inception level of hallucinations. It's living in its own dream, living in its own dream, living in its own dream. That's why I have the rock animation at the beginning of the streams. That's what happens when you ask an AI to generate a picture of the rock based on an initial picture of the rock, and let it continue doing it in recursive descent mode. It can't handle it. Broad moment. The first time I learned was HTML, CSS, Vanilla JS. I never knew there could be React coders without HTML knowledge. There are, Dimitri. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna ignore chat for a minute. I'm gonna talk about this article. So the first thing I thought was, yes, finally, like a positive article about AI. Maybe there are algorithms that this AI system can come up with that we can't conceive of. I kind of put away my initial gut reaction of, I don't believe it, and I'm like, nope. Because Ross thinks I'm too cynical, I'm going to do it on behalf of Ross, and I'm going to try and be positive here. And then I started reading the article. Gentlemen, shall we read the article? Because the article basically self-sabotages itself. It 404s itself. This is really depressing. Let's read the article. I'm going to zoom in here, see if I can get the words on. Okay, that's not bad. A key question in artificial intelligence is how often models go beyond just regurgitating and remixing what they have learned and produce truly novel ideas or insights. A new project from Google DeepMind shows that with a few clever tweaks, these models can at least surpass human expertise designing certain types of algorithms, including ones that are useful for advancing AI itself. So bros, I'm getting like goosebumps, right? The hair on the back of my chest is standing up, right? Because I've got like a monkey level back chest hair, right? That's not even a thing. But the back isn't chest, so I'm probably AI. Honestly, I hallucinated that. But like, I'm like, okay, finally, AI has a good use case. Let's keep reading, bros. Let's keep reading. The company's latest AI project, called Alpha Evolve, combines the coding skills of its Gemini AI model with a method for testing the effectiveness of new algorithms. So I want to stress this word. New algorithms, and an evolutionary method for producing new designs. Just before I continue reading, we all know what new means, right? We know what this word means. Do we know what this word means? It means not seen before. They even included the word novel. It's like no one's thought of this. So again, I'm like, okay, yes, positive, let's go. And then I have to get through this stupid featured video. And then all of a sudden, an instant screech of the tires. Alpha Evolve came up with more efficient algorithms for several kinds of computation. including a method for calculations involving matrices that betters an approach called the Strassen algorithm that has been relied upon for 56 years. The new approach improves the computational efficiency by reducing the number of calculations required to produce a result. DeepMind also used AlphaEvolve to come up with better algorithms for several real-world problems, including scheduling tasks inside data centers. And this is where I got disappointed. Now, reading just a bit more, we have shown very precisely that you can discover something that's provably new and provably correct, Balog says. You can be really certain that what you have found couldn't have been in the training data. And then right up here, it's often difficult to know if a large language model has come up with a truly novel piece of writing or code, but it is possible to show that no person has come up with a better solution to certain problems. This is sounding a bit weak now, okay? It's sounding a bit weak. Sanjeev Arora, a scientist at Princeton University specializing in algorithm design, says that the advancements made by AlphaEvolve are relatively small and only apply to algorithms that involve searching through a space of potential answers. So, no, AI did not come up with something novel or new. It did not come up with algorithms beyond human expertise. So I dug into this a little bit. What did it do? They did not solve optimal packing. They improved the best known packing, which requires a totally different kind of math than solving it. So imagine that I give you an answer, an existing answer to a problem, and I go, can you come up with the same answer faster or with an answer that is just a little bit better than this one? Well, of course you could probably do that. Why? Because you have a whole plethora of answers already given to you. Why do I say you have a whole plethora of answers given to you? Because this is exactly the kind of problem that this AI model apparently solved. This is a fantastic website of the existing known mathematical forms upon which you can equally pack different shapes and sizes into a square. I dove deep into this shit, bros. I didn't just half-ass it. I went all the way in for you. Okay, so I looked up a bunch of these. A few of the problems that it solved are things like circles inside of circles, circles in pentagons, triangles inside of squares, etc. It took existing known human solutions and then came up in some cases with slightly better outcomes. Because unlike what these liars over here said, you can be really certain that what you have found couldn't have been in the training data. No, it was. The answers were there. This is the training data. It was fed the answers. These are the existing answers. Make it better. This isn't new. Came up with completely new stuff. It's nothing like that. This was a bold-faced lie. This is cope. This is the kind of stuff that these AI companies are willing to do in order to get you bought into AI. They are literally willing to lie to you about how these things work and what they do. And unless you're willing to spend inordinate amounts of time for free to dig into what's happening here, you're not going to know any better. And then you're going to assume that AI can generate good code, or that AI can it can come up with novel new problems that no human expert could do, etc., etc. You're, of course, because you're just going to read the thing at face value and not dig into it. There is 2 or 3 Alpha Evolve videos on YouTube. If you want to fact check me on this, you are absolutely welcome to do so. If you're interested in some of these mathematical problems, I did find them interesting. I would encourage you to look it up. It's kind of a tangential thing, but it's related. You can absolutely look at what the heck happened here. It is not what these people have told you happened here. Now, I'm going to cover two more AI articles. So previously, just a little bit earlier, Dimitri and others, I believe 1 or 2 others, I can't remember who exactly, I apologize. They asked, well, isn't AI good for doing things like rubber ducky? Like, what that means is you ask it questions, gives you answers, what it thinks are answers. And from there, you try and come up with like a path, like an idea or a set of strategies. And you just use it as a sounding board and see how far along it gets. Okay, so let's start with this article. LLMs get lost in multi-turn conversations. Now the PDF is there. You can absolutely go into the PDF, and they go over the questions, conversations, interactions that they have with an LLM. And the intent of this study is to see how well LLMs do in a multi-turn conversational exchange. That's exactly what they say here. Although analysis of LLM conversation logs has confirmed that underspecification occurs frequently in user instructions, right? That means users don't specify what they want when they prompt, and so of course the LLMs kind of have to like guess what you're getting at, right? LLM evaluation has predominantly focused on single-turn, fully specified instruction settings. So it's just a one-shot. Here's what I want, what's the answer, and that's where most of the studies are. In this work, we perform a large-scale simulation experiments to compare LLM performance in single and multi-turn. Our experiments confirm that all the top open and closed weight LLMs we test exhibit significantly lower performance in multi-turn conversations than single-turn, with an average drop of 39% across 6 generation tasks. Analysis of 200,000 plus simulated conversations decomposes the performance degradation into 2 components: a minor loss in aptitude and a significant increase in unreliability. We find that LLMs often make assumptions in early turns and prematurely attempt to generate final solutions on which they overly rely. In simpler terms, exactly what Taz is saying on Twitch, I think, I'm just kind of half reading it. We discover, what do they discover here? Let me zoom in. We discover that when LLMs take a wrong turn in a conversation, they get lost and do not recover. They had to bold this. They had to bold this. They had to put this in bold. I don't think it's difficult to understand what this means. What this means is exactly what Taz here is describing. You start a conversation with an AI. Then you start a new conversation, or you pivot the conversation. Maybe you start a new conversation and you wrap up the previous conversation into it for context. either way, no matter which way you go about it, when you have a particular level of context that it comes into the beginning premises of your conversation with AI, and then you shift to something else, like you want to dig into an idea further, the AI loses its way and does not recover. And they went through a very large study. They did such a great job on this study. I had a hard time keeping up. But they wrote out exactly what they did, how they communicated, attempting to communicate poorly, attempting to communicate very well, how many turns did they take, which models performed well versus which didn't. None of them performed well, by the way. Literally, none of them performed well. Soon as you got out of 1 to 2 turns of exchange, they all tanked miserably. And they did look, GPT-4 mini, GPT-4o mini, GPT-4o, 03, 4.1, Claude, Gemini, all of them. They went through all of them. And the degradation percentage is pretty much the same across the board. So this was a fantastic study. I think they did a great job. If you want to read it, it's very, very interesting. Okay, now, let's continue down this line. So this already puts into question whether you can reliably use AI to give you good feedback, even when you're doing rubber ducky or you're using code. Now, unfortunately, you guys don't pay me enough. So I cannot get access to all of these scientific material that I would like to. And some of the subscriptions to get access to these kinds of things is to the tunes of like hundreds of dollars per month. I can't afford that. I barely have enough work as it is. Okay, I spend countless hours putting this stuff together every day, looking for work and doing the work that I have, right? So I can't afford it, and I have a family in tow, and you guys don't pay anything. You guys just bleed me dry, all right? Now, regardless of that, there are 2 things about this study that I can point to. So, ChatGepetto decreases idea diversity in brainstorming. Fortunately for us, the abstract is just barely hidden to give us the key takeaways. Li and Chang explore how ChatGepetto augments human creativity in brainstorming. In a series of experiments, they randomized participants to complete various creative challenges, either with or without the help of ChatGepetto. These challenges included tasks such as coming up with gift ideas, designing toys from everyday objects, and repurposing household items. Each participant submitted one idea, which external factors evaluators rated on multiple creativity dimensions, including innovativeness and usefulness. Across tasks, instructing participants to use ChatGepetto enhance the average creativity of ideas, outperforming web searches and unaided human intuition, with creativity measured as the average of aggregated scores of originality and appropriateness. These results strengthen the empirical evidence for the effectiveness of large language models in idea generation, contributing to a rapidly growing literature. However, as we demonstrate analytically, reliance on ChatGepetto for idea generation comes with a trade-off. While enhancing individuals' ideas' creativity, it reduces the diversity of ideas in a pool of ideas. A critical element for effective brainstorming. This right here is exactly what happens with paradigms, frameworks, abstractions, libraries like React, things that make you feel safe or whatever. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be anything. Anything in the programming world where you are told that it's going to save you time or save you trouble or save you effort. You're too stupid to come up with ideas on your own. Just trust us, just work within this paradigm. It then locks you into only being able to thinking inside of that paradigm. It sets a ceiling for you. That's right. So just the same argument that I'm making about programming, where the ceiling is set for you by accepting the paradigm, you don't want, you're not even encouraged to look outside of that paradigm to see what's going on under the hood. ChatGPT, LLMs do the exact same thing. They, within the confines of that paradigm, yeah, it can help you. But when you have a particular set of ideas, that's it. You can no longer think of ideas outside of that paradigm, which means that your actual creative paths are limited, not opened. And because I couldn't get access to the paper itself just to see the actual data behind it and figure out exactly how well this was constructed, I tried really hard to see if anybody had this data out for free, but what I did find was this. The data that was reported in the paper is available via OSF. And the code availability, which was the stuff that was used to generate the results, is also available via OSF. So when you look here, it's all free and public. You can literally go on here, you just click on the Files tab, and then you can go down into the data, and they have data like the different groups of people that they studied, and they have CSV files, and you can go and look at this data directly. So if I open up, let's just open up one of them, and it just opens it up directly in the tab, and you can go see the data. And then you can go and filter the data and view it however you like. So I did that. And indeed, I could see what they were talking about, because you can see that the ideas that people put down, for example, here, and then the ideas that were generated out of the LLM, yes, it helped them to push forward existing ideas, but it almost never, I actually don't think it ever helped them to generate new ideas. You couple that in with this guy, multi-turn conversations with LLMs, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say maybe it's not a good idea to rely on LLMs to generate ideas for you or to work through ideas. You should probably do so very, very sparingly or very, very carefully. There is an upper ceiling, exactly. Okay. This will be the last thing. Let me go up here. Okay, so what I'm going to do, is it really efficient? Right. How efficient is it? Yeah. I'll do that. So I have a friend on X. He's a really good friend of mine. We talk behind the scenes on some stuff. And what I didn't know is that in 2024, he came up with a little short thread on video games and why they suck. And I thought it was fantastic. Battle Gnome says, wait, can you repeat that? I didn't quite follow. What? Repeat what, Battle? About the efficient thing? I'm not sure what you're talking about, Battle. I lost track after a couple of turns. That's it. I was just saying that you should use it sparingly. If the LLMs lose their place or they devolve and don't recover after using a few turns on them, like a few conversation back and forth, that's what that means. And they also put a ceiling on your ability to generate new creative ideas, then use them very sparingly. It's not like I don't use them, but be very careful how you use them, because yeah. Sergeant, I just noticed you subbed with your Prime. Damn, man. Thank you, Sergeant. I appreciate it. It means a lot. That does help. It honestly helps. That contributes what, like $3 towards the minimum $30 monthly subscription to a lot of these scientific journals. So there we go. I just need 10 more of those, and I'll be able to pay for one journal's scientific subscriptions. All right. What do I think about windsurf? It's terrible. Don't use it. That's what I think about it. Don't use it. It's nothing but net negatives. It may be a few positives, but the negatives outweigh the positives by a huge amount. It's not worth it. Ray on YouTube asked that. It's, yeah, a convo with Chat Geppetto. It is excruciating, yes. Okay. So let's talk about video games for a second. Video games are essentially one of the most prominent places that you will find some of the hardest requirements that you want your programs, your code to operate under. There are a few other industries that also stress test programming paradigms, but video games are ones that we can relate with the most, I suppose. Not very many people could relate with like the financial markets, for example, where there's a lot of stress on code that needs to happen in like sub-millisecond operations and whatnot. But video games are a good thing to point to. You can see the trend of video games as kind of the canary in the coal mine as to what's happening with the tech industry in general. Now, Prosium on Twitch here, or sorry, on X, not Twitch, on X, had a thread in 2024. And he essentially says games are trash, and I agree with him. But he actually went ahead and showed an example of why he thinks this. All modern games are trash, and I'm done pretending otherwise. You disagree? Cope. No, I'm not being hyperbolic. I believe this to the core of my goddamn soul. Modern games are crap. I'll prove it right now. Lock in. All right. Halo 3 was 17 years ago, again, as of 2024. Let's go feature for feature. You tell me if you have seen any modern game come kitted like this since. Lesson 1, the engine. The engine was goated. Grenade jumps, hilarious ragdoll physics, sniper bullets could ricochet, explosives could redirect every manner of projectile. You could throw back an enemy sticky grenade attached to your own grenade. Now I'm going to turn the volume down just in case here, but we're going to watch this.
This moment took place 16 years ago in Halo 3 and is still one of the rarest moments in gaming history. A player throws a sticky grenade at an enemy who catches it mid-action while tossing a frag grenade. The sticky then attaches to the frag grenade, which is then thrown back in an incredible sequence. Halo 3's physics are still unmatched.
Okay. Lesson 2, replays. It took Overwatch ages to release this. League didn't have replays in the client for over a decade. Most games literally never put it in at all, but Halo 3 had an absolutely incredible replay system. Here's what it could do. Unholy. Bro, okay. I think it's about fucking time, Unholy. Hey, Unholy. You constantly come on here as if you don't watch anything that I do on here, and then you make the most stupid arguments that I have possibly seen, and it's getting a bit tiresome. So you're getting called out. So hang on. I have to pull you up proper here. You're going to have a chance to state your case, and I'm going to show you just how dumb you actually are. So we're going to pause the entire stream just because of Unholy here. So Unholy, this dude is so oblivious to capitalism, he thinks it's gaming LMFAO. Imagine thinking lack of features is not because they want to make, save more money, and reduce spending. So I'm going to repeat what I think you're saying here. You're saying that video game companies are purposefully negating or not creating features in their game because it saves them money and time. So there's an economic pressure to not put certain features inside of the games. Is this correct? So far, am I representing your view correctly? Uh-oh. A lot of the features that gamers think is nice to have is a massive part of the project, which is a lot of spending. So, yeah. Like a rewind system. Call of Duty already discussed why that wasn't a thing anymore. Okay. Why wasn't the Call of Duty rewind system a thing anymore? Why did they say it wasn't a thing anymore, Unholy Diver? I could look it up and find out for myself, but Unholy Diver is the one making the claim, so he has to present the claim. We're just waiting. Dion X says Valorant was also struggling with building a decent rewind system. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Pretty much because it saves the data for every game, so it can use resources to recreate it, but it's not that feature specifically, it's that there are lots like that. Okay, sure. There are lots of features like that. Sure. Okay. How long have you been watching my streams on Holy Diver? Rewind systems are crazy difficult if you're using an off-the-shelf system engine. Yeah. Damn it, I wish it would just focus on the text. Not that long. I don't even remember the topics you covered when it was first showing up. Okay. Probably S3 buckets. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Unholy Diver, what do you think the problem that if you okay, no, let me try and ask this a different way. What do you think is the problem that I'm pointing to inside of the tech industry? Based on what you've seen, because you've at least seen probably a few weeks, right? Even if you've watched a week, you can probably discern the problem. So what do you think is the problem I'm pointing to inside of the tech industry? You are just saying that things are going downhill in this industry at a constant rate, but I'm just trying to give some insight that it's not on the devs, it's on the management in this case. Okay. Are you willing to say that it is entirely on the management in this case? Are you willing to say that? Now we're going to get to the bottom of this. I think in the gaming industry, I've seen most devs say that they are forced to do what management says, even if it means the complete failure of the game. So, yes. Sony's latest L shows that. So, yes, management is entirely the problem here. I just want to be clear that that's what you said. Management is entirely the problem. Okay. Unholy Diver, are you a programmer? Unfortunately. Okay. Would you say that hardware has become better or worse over the last 10 years? Or maybe neutral. Neutral is another option. I'm not a hardware person, but I see more hardware related issues lately, so probably worse. Okay. Let me rephrase the question because you kind of have me on a definitional semantic kind of thing. Would you say that the power of hardware has become better or worse? The capability, the power behind hardware, better or worse? I think it's not really better. We are just adding more of what we already have in a smaller package, but certain things like speeds are getting better. What? Hang on. So RAM sizes from 10, 20 years ago being at like 4 gigs and today being at like 16 or 32 gigs, that's not better. It's just the same thing put in smaller packages. VRAM and GPUs, CPU processing capabilities, threading, 32-bit to 64, like these things there isn't a demonstrable appreciation of output improvement in the raw power behind these things. What are you talking about? That's more of what we already have, size and gigabytes and stuff, but speeds are getting better, like you're saying. Okay, all right. Okay, so we probably, understand each other. All right. Now, I'm going to ask you the same question about software. Do we have more capabilities, more choices, the power isn't really the correct term, but what I mean is like the ability for us to create things using software, using code, using programming languages better today than they were 10, 20 years ago. So just to provide you an example of the kind of question I'm asking, it would be the comparison that people often make, which is like, would you rather be writing assembly or would you rather be writing Rust, as an example? Which of the two has, generally more, hey, I feel more productive and things, I can produce things better and faster in this thing. Like, that's kind of the essence of the question. Would you say that there's been an improvement in that space as well? Yeah, in software, we've strayed far from the do one thing and do it well notion because we now have do 1,000 things, do whatever you want, which makes development faster in some cases, sure, but at the cost of doing it well. Okay. So, like, you kind of get the sense of the arguments that I've been trying to make on on my streams. We now have a baseline understanding of what it is I'm talking about when it comes to the tech industry in general. Here's the problem, Unholy Diver. While I agree with you that things like having a rewind system in video games have an economic impact, the problem is that these things are not purely monetary. They're not purely economical. You have to think about the nature of a feature when it was created. That feature was created. That means that problem was solved. I understand there are nuances about how it was solved and in which paradigm it lived in, and paradigms can change, and you would have to re-engage the idea to reapply it in a new context. I get that. But the actual problem that you're pointing to is one-dimensional. The problem that I'm pointing to is multi-generational. There is absolutely no reason why there should be such a massive economic impact to reapply a previously solved game mechanic into a new context if it's been previously solved. The only way that actually has an economic impact, you're pointing to a symptom and I'm pointing to a cause. The economic impact is not simply the economic impact in a vacuum. It is that the argument that most programmers out there, including tech influencers and big tech companies and whatever, say is, on the one hand, things have never been better, hardware has never been better, software has never been better, but then on the other hand, we don't even know how to make stuff that we did previously make on lesser software with lesser programming capabilities than what we have today. That's not an economic problem, that's a skill problem. Do you see the difference? Or effort in some cases, but you can overcome that with economic, what would you call it, incentives, which just kind of goes to Unholy Diver's point. Effort can be overcome with economic efforts, but skill, there's no effort that you can put into something if the skill has been neutered. They could have kept the features since then, yeah, but the maintenance of keeping some are sunk costs. Just because it exists doesn't mean it costs them money to keep it since then. Sure, it costs them money to keep it since then. Yeah, of course, sure, it can. Doesn't always have to, by the way. There are definitely some features that would have very low maintenance, if any, right? But yes, some do. Now, here's the question that I would pose back to you then. From a purely economic standard, do you think that customers, players of video games, would rather play video games that had features that they loved from previous video games that no longer exist? Or would they rather pay for a video game that had features that they loved from previous video games and continues to exist? Of the two, which do you think would provide more economic returns for a company? Elden Ring argument, maybe? Maybe, yeah. Thanks, Dion X. See you later, man. The game would have to increase the price to make up for the loss in maintaining the theater system, for example. So, if people love it enough to spend a little more on it, maybe that would be an indication of how much they really like it or not. Okay, so Unholy, as it turns out, we actually mostly agree. We actually mostly agree. If people are willing to pay more money for a feature that they loved in previous games, then it would make sense from an economic standpoint that a company would want to keep them and they would eat the cost of the maintenance so long as the cost does not generally outweigh the cost of like the income that they would receive from people who want to pay for that feature that they loved from previous games, right? Now, I think we agree with that. Now, here's the problem, Unholy Diver. This is not simply an economic problem. Although you can make an economic argument for it, this is also a skill problem in which the current paradigm of things like Unity and Unreal Engine and all of the abstractions and frameworks and all of that have made it so that even if a company thought to themselves, hey, this was a fantastic feature of Halo, they did it then with much less. Why can't we do it now? Let's bring it in. You'd look around and go, who the hell is here to build it? So no, You cannot simply take the economic and go, that's the only argument to make against why it doesn't exist. And you yourself have already agreed with me, and I have already agreed with you. We have both agreed together that there is an economic incentive that you could make, an economic argument you could make for exactly what Prosium is talking about here. That's why he's bringing up these points. Because it's not one-dimensional. This isn't economic only. So replays, right? He talks about replays. You could fly around in free cam as 343 Guilty Spark. Fast forward, rewind, pause, slow-mo, all there. You could make clips. You could grab screenshots. It even worked in the campaign. You had custom maps with racetracks, jump challenges, etc. You had file sharing, custom game mode rules, custom maps, screenshots, clips, full-length features of films, legendary games between players. You had all kinds of stuff that people solved with less hardware and less programming capabilities at their fingertips. These are things that could still be solved, but beyond simply the economics, my argument is that we don't even have people who know how to solve these problems today, and so we've created a sense of amnesia in our own industry. Does that make sense, Unholy Diver? Can you see why I would say that this is beyond simply an economic argument? Is that fair? But he is putting the blame on games specifically or creators of games, so his argument is just as one-sided. Wait, where? I mean, I guess so. I mean, I guess it would be creators of games. Who else makes the game but the creator of the game? Sure, yeah. But how is that one-sided? He's not making an economic argument. And the creators of games are not purely economically driven. Like, I don't understand how you can say that because it's the creators of games, therefore it only economic. Are not creators of games also game designers? Like how does his argument evolve to only economics, but yours doesn't, I guess? I'm not sure. Like, help me out here. Even at an economic standpoint, getting better, more competent devs, you can make what AAA studios could never make with infinite money, right? Like Elden Ring, Western game devs are seething, right? Yes. He says if your modern FPS doesn't have it, you're trash. They have no control in the direction of the game in most cases. Unholy, man, stay with me here. Listen. How can I say this in a way that I think... Listen. They have no control. Why do they have no control? And you know what? How about this? Here's a better question. You're actually taking two different arguments and mashing them together. Just because the developers have no control over the direction of the game, let's just say I concede the argument, right? Developers have no control over the direction of the game. Creators have no control over the direction of the game. Sure. Let me concede that for the sake of argument. Why does that make it not a trash game? How is that not trash? IO on YouTube says it's kind of like our situation with China. We need to reshore manufacturing for a ton of things, but it doesn't happen overnight. It takes literal decades to build factories and staff and tool them. That's true, IO, but the benefit that we have in the tech industry is that we can move magnitudes of order faster than industrialized aspects of, the world out there. Our ability to move and make changes is way, way faster than anything out there. Our ability, I think in our case, we could turn this around in like 6 months to a year. Dude talks like he's going into a deep dive of the bottom. He clearly doesn't if he doesn't address that. Fine. Maybe he's not addressing it, but I'm trying to address it, Unholy Diver. Why is it that a game is not trash if the developers don't have direction or control over the game? Why is it not trash? Okay. Because Expedition 33 showed the world what developers who have free reign to do what they want for the vision of the game can do compared to the for-profit AAA studios who treat the devs as disposable, cheap slave labor. Unholy, this is not an answer to the question. Do you know what I asked? What did I ask, Unholy? Can you tell me what I asked? You're not answering my question. As a matter of fact, you're making my point, most of my point for me. But what did I ask you, Unholy Diver? IO on YouTube says it can still be quite difficult and time consuming to hire competent devs. It can be, absolutely, IO. But we can change that so it's less time consuming and less difficult if we encourage programmers to look at fundamentals and understand principles. Not everything. They don't have to understand everything, but definitely more than they do now. And then you would have a bigger pool of people who understand core concepts, which can translate very well to better quality output of code, and so on and so forth. And right, and Ross on Twitch also says it's more time consuming and expensive to have bad devs and employees. Yeah, and look at 53 episodes of the Daily Tech News Stream to show you what happens when the industry doesn't put enough effort into increasing the quality of developers and the security issues that come along with that. What's the cost of that? Right? So which one is more costly? I think it's a problem we can solve. I'm just waiting to see if Unholy Diver remembers the question I asked. Nobody give him a hint. Nobody help him. I want to see if he was paying attention. IO on YouTube 100% agrees, by the way. It's because he's based. Unholy, are you still there, buddy? Man, I really... Okay. Here we go. He's still there. Right. And a bad dev is considered someone who fights management, doesn't do just what they're told like a good dog. If you seriously think that devs have controls in the features that get added without approval first, then I don't know what to tell you. Unholy. You're still not answering the question. Stop deflecting. Stop obfuscating. Stop hiding. What question did I ask you? You're fighting a straw man right now. You don't realize what you're fighting right now. Stay with me here. What question did I ask you? Short-term profits in all businesses have always resulted in losses. Yeah, it's true. Yeah. Well, mostly true. I'm not sure about always. I think probably some people walk away with money bags, but I could see it being mostly a loss. It's just people don't think. My tech on YouTube. Am I talking to a chatbot? No, I Unholy Diver's been here for a while. He actually engages. Um, so it's just that I disagree with him so much. So about some topics, not every topic, but this one in particular, and I just think he's misrepresenting. So I want to get to the bottom of it because I think he and I actually agree with a lot more than we don't agree on. But I will not let chat run unabated, building straw mans of arguments and not do anything about it, or at least attempt to make the argument to defend the position. I don't know if he's still there. I don't know if he's still there. I don't think he remembers the question I asked him. No, I wouldn't actually say that the fight seems benign. I don't think it is benign. I think it's actually harmful. Because when Unholy Diver takes a stance as if to assume what somebody is saying and then distills it down to one line of argumentation and says, well, given this single line of argumentation, this person is wrong. Ha ha, how dumb. You're completely ignoring everything else that comes with that, including at that point, like, I don't understand why he's watching my stream at all, because then he hasn't got the point of anything I've done, even if he's only been watching for like 10 episodes. It's really, really clear what I talk about here, and it's really clear why I would bring this person up. Not this person, this person. Because I've had this conversation with this person, and I've had the opportunity to understand the arguments that this person is making. And no, it is not solely economic, which Unholy already kind of like agreed with me that there was some concession there. And it's not wholly the fact that developers don't have control over the features that they code inside of the systems. But he can't tell me what my question was because he wasn't paying attention, because he's too busy with his capitalism bad, economics bad, and management bad. And you know what? The sad part is that there are definitely aspects of the way that he presents some of his arguments here that I would agree with. That's the sad part. But then he strawmans the entirety of the rest of the argument, and the only thing he pays attention to is an ideology. That's what it comes across as to me. I might be wrong about him. I don't know. I don't really know him. But the way that he behaves in chat is basically he just regurgitates an ideological background and then presents it as if it's fact. He presented an ideological background as if that was the argument of this person. So then he can't answer the question that I asked him because he doesn't even know what the question was. And so then he obfuscates, he just deflects, he answers different questions that I never asked. Yeah, your brain is too fried to understand what's happening. That's because it's really difficult to understand what he's saying. That's the problem. I'm mostly asking questions. He's answering. The confusion isn't from the person who's asking the questions to probe what he's thinking. The confusion comes from someone who cannot understand what the arguments are and cannot construct proper arguments themselves. This is the kind of thinking that you typically see in the tech industry. This thinking right here. It's so confusing you can't even keep up with it. They're not paying attention that they can't even respond to basic questions. There is no logic used behind it. You can even see that a lot of this is an emotional appeal. Feel bad for the developers who don't have free reign to do what they do because the management treats them bad. Maybe they do treat them bad, but this is an emotional appeal, and I'm trying to make logical arguments. And he's not engaging with it. Maybe because he can't. I don't know. In any case, here's the argument that Prosium is trying to make here. If these kinds of features were capable of being created on what is self-evidently, nobody would really deny this. Ultimately, no one's going to deny that hardware has become more powerful, more capable, along with any issues that have come along with it. We have supposedly better software, programming languages, packages like, let's say, Unity and Unreal Engine. These things are supposed to make your lives easier when you're working with video games. But instead, what we see is a decrease in features. We see a decrease in the amount of things that you get out of your video games, out of your software, out of your websites, out of the quality, out of the security, even though the claim is that everything else is getting better. These two things don't square. They don't add up. Something's not adding up here. And regardless of what you say about whether developers have a choice in this or not, I'm sorry to break it to you, but developers do have a choice. And the choice comes at an individual level. The choice that a developer gets to make is, I am not going to listen to the people who tell me that I must live in this paradigm. You can make changes from inside of your own world with people around you by making non-emotional logical arguments, which is the entire premise of my entire stream. Everything about this industry is based on nothing but logic, not ideology, not capitalism bad, Marxism good, communism good, communism bad, left, right. None of that matters. It doesn't matter. If we were able to do it before, there is no reason that we can do it again. Even if you can make some economic arguments, but you cannot even make an economic argument saying something like, well, these days it doesn't make economic sense for a company to pay money to maintain older features. Yes, it does. Because then what happens is you piss people like this off, like me and Prosium here and many other in chat, who go, what the hell? I had all these amazing features and now I don't have them anymore. Yes, so Elko, I see chat, but I'm not keeping up with it. I apologize. But Elko just now he essentially describes, puts it in different words. It's not communism or capitalism. It's individuals responsible for overseeing their own domains. That's what I'm calling for. And if you saw individuals who are going, look, I'm not going to listen to my big tech influencer who's telling me to work within a paradigm and only this paradigm so I can make that money, you would see far more movement, even from managers and whatnot, moving towards actually keeping these things and making it more useful and more powerful and adding more features to the things that they build. It makes more economic sense. The Unholy Diver says, if you think that statement was emotional, you have a distorted view of things. No, it was emotional. It absolutely was, because you used emotional words. So I don't think so. You used emotional language. By the way, whoever threw 50 subs out, I really appreciate that. Holy crap. And Laughing Panda, thank you as well too. You're losing interest in defending a point that shouldn't be hard to wrap your head around, but you apparently know all and have the correct answers, and everyone is just insert fallacy I know about. If you think hating on capitalism means you're pro-communism, you're a dumbass. I never said you were pro-communist. Did I, Unholy Diver? First of all. And second of all, you did make the emotional arguments. You used emotional language. Okay? Third of all, you're losing interest in defending a point that you've never made because you can't even answer a basic question. So I have no interest in talking to a complete moronic dumbass who can't even have enough memory recall to go back a mere 10 minutes and answer, what fucking question did I fucking ask you? Can you tell me what the fucking question was, you moronic idiot? Tell me what the question was, and then maybe we can continue the discussion. But I don't think you can. Because you don't have a leg to stand on with this. Says the guy who can't get through high school. And yet I'm the one up here who is doing what I do. You're not. Yes, I will grandstand on my achievements because I am proud of what I did. It actually goes against your point. What have you accomplished with all of your education? But the thing is, it's not even about that. Who cares how much education I have? That doesn't actually make me right, and it doesn't make you right either. That's not really the point. The education factor doesn't mean anything. So it's not even a dunk for either one of us. I'm simply asking you, if you have a more education than me, Unholy Diver, then tell me the fucking question I fucking asked you a mere 10 minutes ago. Because if you have a better IQ than I do, you are going to be able to recall the question I asked you. Go ahead, tell me echo chamber. The echo chamber where I pull up a guy who makes counter arguments. I'm not blocking you. I'm not going to block you. You're not going to get blocked. You can come back and make all the arguments you like, because this is exactly the kind of thing that I want. I want people to defend their positions, and I want to defend mine because it's the only way to get these ideas out there and get to the bottom of it. I pulled you up. I asked you questions. I let you try and explain yourself. But at this point, you can't even tell. You're just deflecting. You're coping because you don't know how to engage in proper logical argumentation. Tell me what my question was to you. Can you even do that? You were the first nobody went on an emotional attack. What are you talking about? By the way, thank you, Elko, for gifting out 5 subs. Geez, you guys are awesome. I really appreciate it. Just Unholy, this is really easy. We can still redeem this line of argumentation. Just tell me what question I asked you so I know you're paying attention. He's not going to do it. He doesn't remember the question. He wasn't paying attention because he got emotional. See, that's the thing, is that Unholy Diver got emotional during the entire exchange while I was asking questions. And then I asked a question, which he can't remember because his emotions got to him. This is why I say emotions override logic, because he can't even remember the question. He got so heated about the thing we were talking about. Even though I pulled him up, even though I engaged with him, I let him have his ability to defend his position. I questioned him on the position. He even pushed back on my position too. We even agreed on a lot of things. But he's not. He can't. He doesn't know what question I asked. So this right here only proves my point. Damn it, Taz, another 5 subs on Twitch. Or no, 5 subs. Jeez, man. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I was not what the hell with the 65 subs? I can't even do math. Probably because I don't have enough. I don't have a high school education, right? I found you through Crucible. Thanks, Io, man. I really appreciate it. Yeah, the shout out from Andrew was huge. Put on the boxing gloves more often, raking the subs. Yeah. I try not to, and you know what? I'll even take it a step further because, I want to try and be as fair as I can to Unholy. If Unholy feels like I've made an emotional attack against his character, then I will retract any such statements. Okay, it should never come down to a person's character or things like their IQ level or whatever. So I'm going to retract anything I might have said, which I can't recall right now, but I probably did. And I think I called him an idiotic moron. Okay, he also though kind of is, because the arguments are. How about that? The arguments. The arguments are idiotic and moronic. Because he doesn't have any. He doesn't have any arguments. Okay? Sorry, not sorry. He may not be a moron, all right? I can take that back. But the arguments, I think they're dumb. They're dumb arguments. I don't think they're good arguments. How about that? And Unholy will not be banned. And I don't want people dunking and bashing Unholy. What I want is for people to see this. And that's the same reason why I argue with people on X. It doesn't matter how popular they are, whether they have like a bajillion, subs or whatever or not. Because I want people to see the arguments that are happening within the tech sphere, within the programming world. And the kinds of arguments that Unholy presented, some of them I do agree with. But the basic premise of the argument is that he went on the attack first. He strawmanned the person who's making the argument in front of your screen right now. And then he made it about one vector, capitalism. Capitalism is really the only problem here. It can't possibly be developers themselves. It can't possibly be the industry as a whole. It can't possibly be the stuff that we produce and obfuscate and whatever. It can't be any of those things. It has to be purely economic. That's a straw man of the argument. Anyway, so Unholy, at any moment, you are welcome back into chat, and I will engage with you again. Okay, I will engage with you again should you decide to come back. I will not ban you, and I don't think anybody should. You shouldn't get piled on. You should have your opinions expressed, and we should engage in them. All right, how about that? Let's see if you can tell us why the question is not trash. So Unholy Diver, let's see if you can tell us what my question was. Because you still have not proven that you were paying attention to what my question was. Everything you say will always somehow be twisted to, but capitalism bad. I mean, the use of capitalism can be bad. Capitalism in and of itself doesn't have to be bad. It's like it's difficult. It's beyond my capabilities to argue at that level. I don't have what it takes that to engage at the economic, societal aspects. What I can say is that when it comes to video games, programming, paradigms, abstractions, and what we've seen in the past with less hardware and less programming capabilities, and what we see now, there is absolutely a disconnect. And you cannot put that solely on the feet of capitalism. And to do so is to strawman the argument, at least that I'm making and that Prosium is making on that feed about the previous Halo stuff that you had. Okay. That's it. So just to be clear, I absolutely destroyed Unholy Diver merely due to the fact that he could not tell me the question I asked, which means he wasn't paying attention. So I win simply by abstinence. So he'd do it. All right. Let's friggin'. Sure. Unholy. What does he say now? Look, I can't even use If you're talking about why the game isn't trash, you got to be gaslighting at this point if you don't see the irony in asking that. Want to learn another fallacy other than strawman? Take a look at your own red herring. So there's some kind of ironic, like the question is bad. Is that what you're saying? Like the question that I asked you is bad. What was the question? Well, what even was the question? Why the game isn't trash? To be fair to Unholy, I don't even remember the question. Yeah, but you weren't the one engaging, right? So I don't expect you to remember the question. And I have an advantage that I have like a textual history. He doesn't. So I'll give him that. I'm trying to give an example of a reason why the games are trash now. The effect isn't the cause. Okay. So you sort of answered the question then, in a way. Games can be trash, and at the same time, you can have developers who are restricted by management. These two things can be true at the same time, and you're tying them together as if like there's a cause there. Well, devs can't produce features because they're limited by management and executives and financial reasons and all of that. And so then the game gets produced and it's trash. Yeah, am I summarizing that okay? Okay. So he says that's why I didn't answer it to begin with. I'm in the boat that most games are trash now. That's what I'm saying from the beginning. But the ones that aren't trash say a lot about the system when you look at how the good devs actually play a major role in the output. But yes. Okay. Where did you? Okay. This dude is so oblivious to capitalism, he thinks it's gaming. Imagine thinking lack of features is not because they want to save more money and reduce spending. That's what you said. And now you're saying games are trash, yes. But if you compare it to people who don't have the economic limitations, for example, who end up building good quality games, then you can see the output. Okay. Now in Holy Diver, okay? Can you give me any examples of video games that had an almost unlimited, massive, insane budget and still produced a trash game? Can you think of one? Even one? Most of the slop these days are made by the same people with a budget to fund every indie game for the next decade. Okay, sure, yeah, okay. All right, yes. Okay. Can you give me an example of a game that had an almost unlimited budget or an exorbitant mass budget that ended up still being trash? Look, okay, Concord. All right. Okay. So he does a Sony's latest out. Okay. Can you therefore see how I would make the argument that it cannot solely be placed at the feet of capitalism or management restrictions or executive restrictions or financial restrictions? Can you see why I don't think that argument is consistent? At least not consistently true. Can you see why that argument cannot be applied consistently? Because you already pointed to the example of Concord. And Chad is giving you many other examples, by the way. It's not just Concord. There's many others where the budget was absolutely crazy. But you could do just about anything you wanted to with that budget. There should be no excuse, but it comes out trash. So I just want to see if we're tracking here. Yeah, Dimitri on YouTube. I just noticed your message. Yeah. Concord, Skull and Bones, yeah. Even Doom recently, I think, is not doing so hot. Yeah, having the money doesn't mean you can spend more to make a great game, though. That's the point I'm making. For profit, have to make more than previously, so they usually have to spend minimum, and max input any way possible. Okay. Yes, this is basic economics. I don't think that this is, anything earth-shattering. Basic economics, spend as little as possible to make as much money as possible. Unfortunately, Unholy Diver, it took me going through this whole process with you to get that, even just that out of you, in order to understand your position. Because you started with a singular argument, which is that this person is oblivious to capitalism, lack of features. Imagine thinking lack of features is not because they want to save more money and reduce spending. That's the argument you started out with. And then I had to go through this series of questions with you, and you pushed back on me, and fairly so, and all of that. Okay? But this still misses the argument. This is a factor, but it is not the only factor. You started off by strawmanning and making it the only factor. And I think you and I actually did agree, right? That there are other factors at play. Companies could make more money if they maintain features from previous games that people liked or loved and brought them in, but that requires a skill thing that has very little, if anything, to do with money. Sometimes the ROI on that would be way more than the maintenance of the feature, etc. So the argument you're making cannot be consistently applied to everything, right? There's more to it than just capitalism bad, money bad. Right? Do you still disagree? I'm trying to include your view into the entire argument, yes, by saying it's not the only piece, right? I'm playing Starfield right now. The only way that's mods is the only way that's really worth playing. I haven't even played Starfield. I watched like a few minutes of it. And I'm like, nope, this game sucks. Right. I was just saying he didn't consider it. I didn't say I wasn't saying it was the 100% primary cause, but lots of devs fight out against the system because it results in much worse games. Hang on, I just want to make sure I understand this right, Anoli. You weren't saying that it was 100% the cause. Okay, fine. Okay, we got that. We cleared that. So it's not 100% the cause. So you can kind of see where I'm coming from too, where there are other factors at play. And I agree with you, there are economic factors. Okay, so I think we found some common ground here. But lots of devs fight out against the system because it results in much worse games. I'm trying to understand what you're trying to say here. I think I'm lost on this one. Maybe it's the lack of high school education and the sub 100 IQ that I have. Devs fighting out against the system because it results in much worse games, and they're pointing to non-economic factors and saying that's the only reason. Am I like repeating your view on that correctly? Am I understanding this correctly? Devs will fight out because they think it's purely like a technical thing, as opposed to they completely ignore the economics of it. Is that what you're trying to say here? I want to make sure that I'm not misrepresenting his arguments. You know, my IQ is in the high 90s. Okay, high 90s. I'm very proud of it. It took a lot of effort. I started in like the low 80s, and over the last 40 some odd years on this mortal coil, I'm finally at the high 90s. It's taken, generating brain cells is not easy, all right? So I just want to make sure I've got Unholy correct here. Room temperature who buys mods? Lots of people buy mods. What are you talking about? What are you talking about, Little Sparrow? Lots of people buy mods. As long as there's value in it, people will buy it. Look at World of Warcraft. People buy all kinds of mods for World of Warcraft. It's like a serious business. Measure IQ in Kelvin, yeah. I just want to make sure that Unholy thinks that I got his argument correctly about that last sentence, because I'm having a hard time following that. Having a hard time following that one. Let's see. Did I get it right? By the way, thanks everybody for the subs. That's a lot of damn subs. Blazingly Slow gave 50. Then Laughing Panda gave out 2. Then Elko gave out 5. Then Taz gave out 5. Hopefully I'm not missing anyone. I know Sergeant gave one earlier with a Prime. And I think I got a follow or something. I really appreciate it. That's going to help towards my scientific paper journalism subscriptions. I don't know. Maybe Unholy's not there anymore. I'm not sure. Maybe he took off. Oh, here we go. Okay. Oh, man. Unholy. Come on, man. Unholy. Man. Can you... I'm trying to ask you a question to see if I got your argument right. You're not even answering that. Just help me out here. I'll say this then, because maybe I spent way too much time diving into the topic of capitalism in the tech industry, specifically gaming, and ways people think will solve that problem, such as a more socialist system for the game industry or a union. But maybe that could be a good deep dive for one of the article news days. If you have articles on that, Unholy, 100% send them my way. I will look at them. But please, man, help me out. Did I get you correct? Because I just had a hard time with this last sentence here. Oh, okay, here we go. Yes, you did, and yes, there are many factors. That isn't just one, and yes, games are getting more trash. Okay, so we actually agree. But Unholy, I'm going to make a suggestion. You don't have to listen to me because I am a high school dropout who's grandstanding with a sub 100 IQ. The language that you came out with at the very beginning, the dude is so oblivious to capitalism, he thinks it's gaming. Imagine thinking lack of features is not because they want to save more money and reduce spending. That is very specific language. You brought up very specific words. And you necessarily negated the idea that maybe he did consider economics. And you have to admit something, that when you and I at least engaged, right, we did agree that you could find a way to keep previous game mechanic features that are fun for gamers, have already been built by devs, and you could make more money doing that, which is an economic argument. You have no idea. You actually can't say that he did or didn't think about it. And if you take his arguments in the most charitable way instead of a non-charitable way, then you can actually make an argument for an improved capitalistic money output where you can have your cake and eat it too, and he could be pointing to that. So just in the future, maybe just be aware. You don't have to change the way you're talking. I'm not asking you to change the way you're speaking, but you have to be aware that there are going to be some times when you're using language like this where you necessarily remove other ideas or it looks like you're straw manning the argument. Maybe you actually weren't here, but you brought up capitalism. You brought it up. Nobody else brought it up. You did. You're the one who used this word. And then you said he necessarily didn't even include that in his thinking in these posts. But you actually don't know if he did that. And again, when you and I engaged, we brought that into it. It was not hard to bring into it that it could be more than just economic. So I'm going to stop. I'll stop. I'll put you aside, okay? For reference to all of my viewers, just because Unholy and I had it out doesn't mean that gives you free pass. Like, it doesn't mean that I approve attacking Unholy unfairly or whatever. Okay. And I know that I did that a little bit too. So I retract all of that. I want to have people like him on here so that we can actually have these ideas out. And Unholy, again, my DMs are open. You're welcome to DM me. You're welcome to jump on Discord. If you want to send me links to your view or things that you've found about how capitalism impacts the industry and whatnot, because you've done a dive into that, send them to me. I'm happy to review them. Absolutely happy to review them. And if they're, if I go through them and I do whatever due diligence and I think that they can be shown and we can talk about them on stream, I will do that. Yes, I will do that. And yeah, I think, just to be completely clear here, this is the kind of stuff that's missing in this industry. We don't have these kinds of conversations anymore, even though it can get uncomfortable. These kinds of conversations need to happen because we don't question what we're doing and why we're doing it. And I think even Unholy kind of agreed a little bit that there are ways to make more money than we do now, given how far advanced we are, right? And we're not. And we should have these engagements, and we should be questioning why the hell we're doing what we're doing in this industry. So, such as it was, I'm kind of glad Unholy did that. And there he's dropping links for me. So I'll save these. You can always DM me on Twitch as well, Unholy. You know what? It's okay. Leave the links up there, and I'll save that. I'll try and save all of them. Okay. Let me pull up freaking Notepad. All right. Let me just pull up freaking Notepad. Sub 100 IQ here. Okay. It takes me a while. I'm old and I don't have a high school education, so I'm too stupid. Okay. I will look at those links, and if I have questions or whatever, I'll talk to you. I'll just DM you. On Twitch. Let me make sure I can do that. Yes, I can. Okay, perfect. Okay. Thank you, Unholy Diver. That was good. Even though it was uncomfortable. It was an uncomfortable thing, but it was good. But I just want to be clear that, be aware that sometimes the way that you approach a topic necessarily limits other ideas, and that can come off bad, even though you might not mean it. I'm anti-capitalist because for a for-profit company took my family home when I was a kid, and a union provided us a way to buy a new one. So I really hate any support for it. Okay, so it cannot possibly be that that's the only reason. You have to add to that, Unholy Diver. You have to add to it that it's not the only reason. Is that the only reason that you're anti-capitalist? Because there are bad things that come out of capitalism? It's also because I see it ruining industries and lives on a daily basis. Holy crap. This is an entire meta argument that's beyond the scope of the stream. You hate support for it. Those articles go into a limit. Okay. Okay. How about this? It's a psychology stream now. It's something else. So look, here's what I'm going to do. I won't respond. Okay. I think chat's responding. If Unholy Diver wants to respond to chat, I think they can talk about it. I am going to reserve any response I have until I see his articles. To be fair to Unholy Diver, he sent me some articles. He wants me to look at them. So I want to try and get a better sense of where he's coming from. So whether or not I agree or disagree with him, I'm just not going to enter that right now. I will try and find a way to engage with the topic best as I can, but to be completely unironic and completely honest, I am a high school dropout. I probably have a sub 100 IQ, and my field of expertise is not psychology or societal things, although I point to those things as the reason why the tech industry is in bad shape. But I'm quickly out of my depth. Even though I think a lot of the logical arguments can be kind of carried over, but I'm not prepared, to go into that. So, and so to be fair to Unholy Diver, because he went through the trouble of actually sending me information, I'll just go over the information, and then maybe at a future time we can talk about it more. And we can kind of narrow it down, right? Maybe we can just kind of narrow down the entire thing. He doesn't like capitalism because of bad outcomes. And then we can kind of talk about how that affects the tech industry and what he thinks is like a positive and a negative, and positives or negatives or whatever. Okay? Trying to be fair here. Okay? But if you want to engage with chat, you're welcome to engage with chat. Because, yeah. Okay. How about I end the stream there? I'm way over time, and I have stuff I got to do. And I just want to be clear again that I agree. One thing I do agree with is Prosium here. I do think that he brings up good points about how things were, and that there are very few actual good excuses for why things are worse with video games today. They don't have to be. Technically, and therefore economically. We should have the technology, programming, and hardware to recreate a lot of these game features, and we should be able to encourage managers and executives to allow space for these things to come back, because gamers would be much happier. They would have cool stuff that they loved having in the past that made the game more fun and interesting, and they would pay more. Instead, we're actually paying more money for less video games today. Just as a general argument, I agree with that. And I know, because I've talked to him privately, I know he's considering economic factors into this. Okay. So that was the kind of like the last thing I wanted to touch on. Anyways, that's it. I appreciate all the support. I appreciate all the freaking subs. I think that you guys don't understand how helpful it is. You really don't. Because I do all this of my own time and my own efforts. I edit my own videos. So I was up at like 4 a.m. last night editing videos for stuff that I'm not going to release for like 2 weeks ahead of time. I do all my own research, such as it is. Take that to mean whatever you think it means. I try and come up with the arguments myself. Well, not entirely myself. I do have a few people who help out, who jump in and help out. I have one or two really solid friends who I can always go to for advice and stuff. So it's not all on me, but a huge portion of this work is on me. And it's difficult when you don't have a lot of money, you don't have enough work to pay for everything. And so the gifted subs there on Twitch are massively helpful. But I want to be clear that it's not why I do this. I really do appreciate it. I have a link at the end screen where you can go do the Streamlabs tip thing if you want to tip, because the YouTube and stuff take more money. Streamlabs takes less, so I see it more. That stuff helps me so that I can be a little bit less stressed out about having to pay for stuff and putting the material together and whatnot. So you guys are freaking awesome. Thank you for the insane amount of subs. That's crazy. Thank you, Unholy Diver, for putting up with me. Okay, trying to be fair to Unholy Diver. Fine, I may disagree with him on things, and we called each other names. But thank you for having the argument, because we need more of that. If I need more money, I can always be a React dev. Yes. And then Unholy gives out a sub. All right. Chat, can you drop W's? Chat, please drop W's for Unholy. No, I want to see W's all over chat, please. Just spam W's, please. W's for Unholy. That is a super based thing to do. He didn't have to do that. Absolute W for Unholy doing that. Even though we call each other names and we disagreed, he still dropped a sub. So, absolute W. Thank you, Unholy. Absolute W. Yeah, even YouTube is dropping W's. Yeah. Continuing the sub gifted from Alka. Thank you, Unholy. So, I mean, I was going to do it anyways, but that just confirms to me that that's Ross. You got to cover the articles you sent now. If I'm not going to cover the articles, it will only be because I find something that's not worthy of coverage, and I'll talk to him about it. But I one way or another, whether he sent a sub or not, I would have done it anyways. Technically, Alco gave the sub. Yeah. You know what, Unholy? The joke's on you, buddy, because all that happened, Unholy, you just took from a capitalist supporter, all right, and you redistributed capitalism, Unholy. So maybe actually the joke's on us. Maybe he communized the entire process. He took capitalism and communized it by redistributing it. I don't know who wins. I don't know. Either way, Unholy gets a W. Thank you for the support. You guys are awesome. You don't have to cover them, but at least view the side of the industry to see their concerns. I will do that. 100% I will do. It's our sub now. Bezos wins. Socialism W, yeah. I will 100% I will view them, okay? And Unholy, I will DM you on Twitch with questions that I have. And I want to make sure that I understand that side of the argument better. So I'm probably going to lean on you to help me do that. So if, watch out for a DM. It's going to take me a little bit of time because I'm way behind on stuff. So to that end, again, thank you for all the subs. It's immensely helpful. It's always, I'm sure a lot of you know what it's like to live paycheck to paycheck and have a family. And it's tough. And the tech industry right now, and the special report yesterday with ghost jobs, it's tough to find a job. So things are, it's frustrating. I'm glad that I have a bit of a contract that helps me get by. It helps free up some time so that I can do this stuff. But the subs are huge. The financial support is huge. The most important thing that I can ask of all of you is the thing that I constantly harp on all the time, almost every single stream. Generally speaking, the tech industry is in bad shape. We need programmers to step up. We need programmers to look beyond the paradigms that they are asked to work within. Ask, why does the paradigm exist? Go learn fundamentals. Go learn something about how RAM operates in your machine. Just one thing. What does a CPU do? How does a CPU communicate to RAM? What's the point of having a hard drive? What's the difference between a hard drive and RAM? Just something. Anything at all. Why does assembly exist? Why does C exist? Why does Rust exist? Maybe you love Rust. Maybe you hate Rust. Maybe you're neutral about Rust. Why does this thing exist? That's what I want people to take away from this. It's not about the money. It's not about the capitalism, socialism. Okay, it's not really about that. Tech lives in a world of purely logical inputs and outputs. That's it. Fundamental awareness of what that is super critical, and we don't have enough people in this industry who know these things. Go pick up something and go learn something beyond what you're being told to learn. That's what I really, really want people to take away from this. And the exchange between Unholy and I, for example, today, showing some of the arguments that I do, is exactly to point to the problems that the tech industry is suffering from, and the fact that very few people are actually willing to even engage the way Unholy did. Some of these conversations are uncomfortable, but I want us to be having them. And I want you guys to be armed with as much information as possible to make the best arguments you can for doing better in this industry, so that you can go talk to the managers that Unholy doesn't like, and I kind of agree with him, honestly, or the executives, or your fellow colleagues, or whomever. And you can make the arguments as best as you can to persuade people that we can do better. Because we can. That's what I want people to take away from. So to that end, the one thing that I do ask, the financial stuff is fantastic, But please do the like and subscribe and the buttons that the hearts and the reposts on X and all of that. All of that stuff helps my reach, which means I can reach more people, including people who disagree with me, so that we can have these conversations, so I can ask questions that are uncomfortable, so we can figure out what the hell we're doing and why. It's already working. You guys have already helped me immensely to do that. The viewership I'm getting is way more than I ever thought I would get when I first started streaming, and that's because of you guys. So I can't thank you enough. I really appreciate it. I will be back tomorrow for another Daily Tech News stream. I might have to fly by the seat of my pants on that one because I've taken up way longer than I needed to today. And so I might not have time to do a proper, pull it all together. I'll do my best. Unholy, thank you again. Okay? I'm specifically calling out Unholy for being based. We need people to stand up for what they think is right in the industry for sure. Yes. And we can do better. I think we all agree we can do better. So that's it for me. Stay safe out there, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. I appreciate all of you. Thank you again. Can't say thank you enough. You're going to get sick of hearing me say thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Let me just check. Was there one last thing I want? Nope. That's it. We covered that. We did that. We argued with Unholy. That's off my checklist. I had it on my spreadsheet. Yeah. Just kidding. All right. That's it. Peace out. By the way, everybody sucks today except Unholy Diver. Because even though he argued with me, he dropped a sub. But all of you other sucky suckers, you all suck. All of you suck. Every single one of you sucks. Okay? All of you. Ross sucks. Purecoin sucks. Dimitri on YouTube, you suck. Battle, you suck. Little Sparrow, you suck. Taz, you suck. AH, you suck. Adoraz, you suck. Battle, you suck. Elko, you suck. DDaver, you suck. Laughfully, you suck. Ray on YouTube, you suck. IO on YouTube, you suck. All of you suck, except today for Unholy Diver. Okay, just today, Unholy Diver gets a pass. But every one of you sucks. Okay?